Welcome to the Grow Bridge. I'm Ivo-Castillo, your host here in Miami. This podcast is for entrepreneurs and leaders with strong ties in Latin America who wants to understand how Anglo founders think about growth, leadership, marketing, and decision making, and how to apply their mindset to your own business. Today, I'm excited to have Don Farrell. He's the founder of Fresh Revenues. How are you, Don?
Ivo, I am doing grand. I'm doing even better now that I'm hanging out with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's start with the first question. Can you share a bit about your background and the role you're playing in Fresh Revenues?
Sure. Background, I started at 15 years old, Ivo, washing pots and pans for the Marriott Hotel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Worked my
Okay.
way through the entire kitchen, wound up at the front desk, dining room, bellman, and eventually into the sales office three and a half years later. So I have a ton of empathy for all the people that work at hotels and work hard, you know? So I come from that background. And then while I was in sales, I started to work for different brands, eventually winding up at the C-suite level where I was in charge of 800 hotels, a third of the country, and did that for about 15 years before I started my own company in the late 80s. And it was a pure consulting company at the time, Evo, where I would go into a hotel asset, because that's my background, hotels, and I would find out how to maximize the opportunity for that owner to make money. And in a lot of cases, the phone call sounded a lot like this. Hey, Don Farrell, I'm losing $1 million a year. I've lost $1 million a year for 5 straight years. And if you can't help me break even, I'm going to lose my asset to my lender. Can you help me? That's what a phone call sounded like at the very beginning for the first 5 years of my little company's existence, company staff of one, me, right? And then it morphed into a training company by accident. So that's a very quick and dirty of how I got to where I was.
Yeah. And so how long is being Fresh Revenue?
Good question. So I started the first company was called Signature. Signature became the largest training company in the world. Started in the spare bedroom of the house. And when I go back to the days when I was doing pure consulting work, Evo, I would call up people. I would make cold calls and I would say, hey, I'm Don Farrell. I can go into your asset. I can help you maximize. Well, back then, if you said you were a consultant, I don't know if it still is this way, Evo, but back then, if you said you were a consultant, what that really meant was, hey, I'm looking for a full-time job, but I'm looking for some income temporarily. So would you hire me? Well, I would make literally 500 phone calls and have like 5 prospects. And I said to myself, you're not as good as you are, as good as you thought you were, Don Farrell. You better figure this out or you're going to have the shortest lived business in history. And what I did was 2 things. And the most important thing was I felt like I had to guarantee success. And if I didn't obtain the success that the owner and operator was looking for, I didn't get paid. And I thought that was the best way to cut through the noise and say, look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm putting my wallet where my mouth is. And if I fail, then I make no money. So that's how sure I am I can help you. And what I thought was a sales advantage turned into a real culture thing because Evo, when I eventually became the largest training company in the world, we had 383 associates. We had licensees in 44 countries. We had well over 10,000 clients, right? We guaranteed success with every single one of those clients. It became part of our culture. And if you were to call up, you were a client of ours, and you were to call up and say, look, I'm a little upset about something you guys did. Peggy, who answered the phone at the switchboard, her
Yeah.
body parts would start falling off because she knew if we didn't take care of this client, we'd have to write a great big check because we had this client for 8, 9, 10 years, right? So that was the kind of commitment that we had then and we still do today. And I sold that big company in 2007 to start the best company, which is Fresh Revenues. And our 4 disciplines are sales, service, leadership, and culture. Very tactical, practical stuff that makes our clients money. And I'll say one more thing and I'll come up for air. So now what we're doing is not just hospitality. We're doing hospitality work in non-traditional hospitality areas, assisted living, doctors, dentists, lawyers, people that want hospitality kinds of skills are hiring us to bring that to their people. And it's a lot of fun for me because who doesn't need hospitality, right?
Yeah. It's just, yeah, exactly. Because everything related to human interactions, service is a way of vitality.
Absolutely.
I have to treat it that way.
Absolutely. Can I throw out two letters? AI. So AI are the most popular letters in the English language right now, right? And
Correct.
what I tell people, I just told a group last week. So AI, if you're in a position where you're not offering, ready, a new definition of AI, if you're not offering authentic interactions, you will be replaced by the other AI. Because people are afraid, like, with AI, am I going to get replaced? The answer is yes. If you're not offering authentic interactions with a potential buyer, potential client, a potential person in your own business, internal customer, if you're not authentic interaction kind of a person, then you will be replaced and you should be replaced. And I tell people that all the time. So talk about human interaction. You better have an authentic one. You better know
Yeah.
how to do it or you will be replaced. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me,
Mm.
who buys your services? Let's say the gross,
Yeah.
the gross clients.
So it could be as small as one owner in one location. It could be a management company that manages a lot of assets, or it could be a brand. Let's just focus on hospitality for a second. It could be a Marriott, it could be a Hilton. So I've got all kinds of buyers, and it could be as small as one owner, one asset, or it could be a brand that has 12,000 assets, and everything in between is our client. So it's a big universe for me.
Yes. Specifically, this buyer is the owner, the GM, or regional leader.
Yeah, in a management company, it would be like the vice president of operations. At the one unit level, it could be the owner, it's the GM, but they can't push the button because of the money involved. So they have to convince the owner, which is fine. And at the brand level, people who have all the money in the hotel world right now are the loyalty people. So anybody involved in the loyalty program has money and they can hire us. Everyone else wants to hire us, they don't have any money. Uh, so it's VP of operations at a management level and higher, an owner slash GM at one unit. And then at the brand level, a lot of the loyalty people are hiring us because they've got budgets.
That brings me to what is the biggest change? You already mentioned it, but I wanted you get deep on it. What is the biggest change you are seeing in hospitality right now that leaders still ignore?
Okay, great question. I'm glad you asked it. So let's just get real tactical for a second so it's easy to the audience to understand. Before COVID, if I were doing a training class, let's say it's 24 people in a U shape, face to face training, I would have 60% of that audience that would have a clue as to what they want to be when they grow up. Let's pretend these are front desk associates. And they range anywhere from 18 years old to 80 years old and everything in between. 60% would have a life goal in mind. They didn't know exactly what the job was, but that they knew it was a people job. They knew it was IT. They knew it was something. Post COVID, Evo, I'm finding in the States, 20% have some sort of a goal. That is a challenge for leaders today. When somebody shows up at your business and they don't have future hope, they don't have future plans, they don't have future aspirations, they're basically filling a job. And what we need to do is to stop hiring people that are looking for jobs and hire people that are looking for skills that will help them with a career. They don't have to know exactly what that job or career skill or career job is, focus is, but they at least have to have an idea. Is it a people job? Is it a job that's going to be demanding on emotional intelligence? Is it multitasking? Whatever it is, they need to understand the skill sets involved and how this current employer can help you get better. That's who we need to be hiring. And instead, we're hiring people that are looking for jobs. On top of that, we're not developing the right kind of a culture to embrace those people. So here I am, I come to work, I'm making $15 an hour at the client facing, customer facing positions, critical positions. I'm making $15 an hour. I don't know what my career looks like. I'm basically taking a job. I'm short of money. I'll always be short of money at this point in my life, a job I take. And somebody comes along and offers me 50, 60, 70 cents more an hour, and I leave your business. That's a sad state of affairs. We haven't created the right culture to embrace those people. We haven't cared enough about them to help them be better people and to give them exactly what they need for the future. That's what's missing. Okay. And until people like me come along and straight shoot these people, not only at the C suite level and the leadership level, but at the 13, 14, $15 an hour level. Nobody talks to them like that. And I do because someone needs to. Right. So That's what's missing. Number one. Number two, um, 99% of training fails, Evo, and it fails for two big reasons. Number one, when a facilitator shows up, they fail to get the hearts of the people in the room. You better get their hearts first, then their head, and then the right words start coming out. Instead, these facilitators, these trainers are going for this and this, and the heart's not in it. So the 13, 14, $15 an hour employee is sitting there saying, okay, this woman up in front of the room wants me to use certain skills so the owner can buy a new house. Yeah, that motivates me, right?
Yeah.
My boss needs a new car. That's why I
Yeah.
should work harder. Yeah, that motivates me. So you got to get their hearts. And that's relatively easy to do. Here's the harder part for clients and potential clients for me. They don't know how to reinforce it. What does that mean? It's easy to come in and train people for 8 hours and they're motivated and they're fired up and man, this was great. And then tomorrow comes and they use this much of the skills. And before you know it, they're not using any of the skills because nobody's holding them accountable. Nobody's measuring it. Nobody's tying it to an ROI, return on investment. Nobody's tying it to an incentive that they can earn. Nobody's coaching them. Nobody's ready for turnover. As a result, this great idea, it could be great training, fails because it was set up from the beginning to fail. It wasn't reinforced. And I wish I could tell you I was smart enough many years ago to have thought of this on my own. But what happened was I had a large client call me into a room with 80 general managers in a U-shaped setting. And they said, Don Farrell, your stuff doesn't work. And I said, why not? And they said, because my people aren't doing it. And I looked at that decision maker and I said, let me get this straight. You're mad at me because your people aren't following through like you told them to. And the decision maker said, correct. And I said, wow, I'll tell you what, I take full responsibility. How do I fix it? And they basically said, make us do it. We went from being a $2 million company to being a $150 million company because of that one meeting. We wouldn't have thought of reinforcement unless the clients made us. I'm not the smartest guy that people have ever heard, but the one thing I do is to listen to our clients because they know what the pain points are. And in a lot of cases, they have the solution. So I listen very well and I stay close to our clients because they make me smarter.
So what is working well for your client right now?
People that are using our processes are finding that they're making more money the very day we start the training. And then it grows as the skills grow. Okay. Number two, their turnover is going down. Less people are leaving because they feel like their employer cares more about them. Now, I make it clear to these people that are listening to me in the training event. Your employer is not a social worker. They have a gain that they're looking for. They're looking for a return on investment. They're looking for you to use more skills, better skills, which will create a better experience for your consumer, which will make them more money. But here's the good part for you. You're gaining skills that you can use for the rest of your life. It's a win, win, win. You win, the employer wins, and the consumer wins. Everybody wins. So that part is working terrific. So people that use the reinforcement are saving payroll because they have less turnover and they're making more money the day we go in and show them how to make more money, which is kind of cool, right? And
Yeah,
it gets better in time. So
claro.
we've had clients for 13, 14, 8 years because we can do it less expensively. They can do it on their own and they can track the revenue increase and the reduced payroll dollars because of the turnover. So it's a beautiful thing.
And how is this reinforcement? Is keep training these skills year
Yeah,
over
great
year?
question. Great question. So let's reduce it to its simplest form. Let's pretend the first thing I love to do with a brand new client, and they don't even know I'm doing this, is to shop them. And what that means is I try to buy their product or service. I call them up, we'll walk into a business and try to buy their product or service. And we will record that call if it's on the phone. And I will play those calls for the potential client. They don't even know I was going to do it. And when they hear these calls, they're mortified. They're like, she said, what? He did what? Had no idea they were doing that. Meanwhile, they're in meetings talking about mission, vision, value statements. And meanwhile, at the front door, we're making it hard for people to do business with you, right? So I'm able to walk in with a loaded deck that they don't even know I have to say, listen to these. Are you happy with these results? And if the client says, "Oh, I love those calls," well, guess what? You don't need me then because you don't know what you don't know what elite looks like, right? Unless you want me to tell you, and I'll tell you. So we walk in with a stack deck, and now I can show them the ROI. So to answer your question, reinforcement is continued shop calls. So when we train you at the front desk, when we train you in the sales office, when we train waiters and waitresses and everyone else, we shop you because we're looking to measure how much you've gained in your skill sets based on what we taught you. And if you're not using the skills that we taught you, we will know. And now we individualize the training. Now I can call you up and say, "Hey, Evo, how much is a room for Friday night?" Evo says, $169. And I say, "Okay, thanks." Evo says, "Great. See ya." Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't hang up, Evo. Why not? Because this is Fresh Revenues calling. Oh, no. Yes, Evo. We sat in the class and we talked about this. Evo,
Yeah.
got all excuses, but I got all these excuses. Evo, let's talk about this. And
Yeah.
now we role play, role play, role play with Evo. Now it takes 3 times for Evo to get busted before Evo finally says, "You know what? These guys are not going away. I guess I should start using the skills." And that's what happens. So we do shop calls. We do coaching calls. We'll call up and not tape it and do exactly what I just did and say, "Evo, why aren't you using the skills?" And Evo is honest with us because I'm not your boss. I'll never be your boss. And you're honest with me and you say, "I hate it here. I don't like the carpet," whatever it is, right? We cut through all the crud and we deal with the situation. So reinforcement and shop calls reinforcement is tying it to an incentive. Evo, use the right skills. Because guess what? When I've got this recording showing you using all these skills, your boss is going to hear it and he's going to pay you money this month because you had a perfect shop. And by the way, he can't wait to share this good news with his boss, her boss, because they'd rather talk about all the good stuff you're doing than the bad stuff, right? So now Evo gets recognized, and Evo wants to be recognized because Evo wants to get promoted, and Evo wants to make more money. Guess what? He earned it because he showed he's using the skills. So we had the U.S. Navy for 13 years. They had 10 reinforcement vehicles in place: tracking, accountability, coaching, shop calls, incentives, and on and on and on. And if the U.S. Navy needs discipline, then you know everyone else needs discipline too. So that's what
Yes.
reinforcement looks like.
That is completely separate that we were talking about personalization and the importance of give this
Yeah, I'll
human
tell
to
you what.
human feedback
Yep.
that until now any AI can give you.
Right.
Because nowadays you can see trainings with AI, right?
Right.
So that is a competitor of you. But what is the value you do? That personalization that, hey, I'm here. Let's get through this.
Yeah, we coach every single individual based on their personality, based on the challenges. And there's only 2 training companies I know of in America, Evo, that do reinforcement. One is the first company I developed and sold, and it's the second company nobody else does it. You know why? Because it takes an investment. That's why. Training done wrong. If people are listening to this and they haven't heard anything I've had to say, I hope they hear this. Training done wrong is an expense. Training done right is a true investment. And you'd say all the time, people, you say all the time, my greatest asset are my people. You're right. But we haven't treated them like that because we haven't trained them the right way using the right processes. If you're not reinforcing, you're not training the right way. So invest in your people. Don't make it an expense, make it an investment.
That's great. Next question will be, and in this process, when a client keep failing, is because they don't follow up,
Great
or
question.
they change, or is the leadership? What is it?
Great question. So it's a several reasons, but let's take a couple of scenarios. So if we train them and they're not using the skills, it's one of 3 situations. One, we have a buy-in problem, starting with the leader. He or she doesn't believe the skills will make them more money, so they're not following through. Okay, so we have a buy-in problem. We have to approach that as a buy-in problem. Or 2, we still have a skills problem. The hardest people to train, Evo, are the people that have been in the same job 18 years. I'd rather have somebody who was 18 minutes. 18 years, they've learned all the mistakes and that's all they know and they're using them. So it takes a little bit more training for those 18-year veterans. I get it. Okay. So first problem is, do we have a buy-in problem? Second problem is, do we have a skills problem? Or scenario number 3 is, we have both problems. Okay. So if it's a buy-in problem, I've got to get with the leadership and say, Why aren't you following through? Why aren't you paying attention to your people? Because if you're not going to do that, I can't do your job for I can do it, but it's very expensive for us to keep doing it for you on our own. And if you don't follow through, guess what's going to happen? I, your vendor partner, are going to fire you. You're not paying attention. I don't want your money. You're wasting your time and my time. I don't want your money. Keep your money. I wish I could tell you I did that from day one. I couldn't afford to do it from day one because I was a beggar. I had to crawl, walk, run. For the first 2, 3 years of my company's existence, I couldn't be totally honest with our clients because I needed the money to stay alive. But it was a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day, Evo, when I fired my first client. And here's how it went. Hey, Charlie, guess what? Hey, what, Don? How you doing, buddy? I'm doing great, man. But guess what? I'm gonna fire you. What? No, I love you, man. Charlie, you're not paying attention. For 6 months, we've been doing this, and we keep having phone calls, Charlie, where you say you're gonna follow through, and you're not doing it. I will, Don. I promise. You promised me 3 times, Charlie. You're not doing it. Save your money, Charlie. Save your time. Save the frustration. I'm firing you. And I hung up, and I said, guess what? I still get to eat dinner tonight. I can afford to eat and fire my clients. How refreshing is that to be that brutally honest with the people who are your clients? And if they don't like your honesty, I could be wrong, but if they don't like your honesty, then they're going to go elsewhere. And that's fine, right? Because I've got other people that are good people that could use our help.
That's a great answer.
That was a great feeling to be able to fire a client. I
Yeah.
haven't fired many, to be honest with you. What typically happens is these are good clients. They start off real great and then they have turnover for good reasons. Okay. We taught people how to have more skills and they became the people they wanted to become. They wanted to be nurses. They wanted to be teachers. They wanted to be firemen. And because the hotel cared more about them or whatever the asset is cared more about them, they learned skills that we taught them. They did better with their employer who we work with. Now they're becoming the people they want to be. It's great turnover, right? So what happens is now you get new people and the skills deteriorate, but they get back up again because we have the reinforcement, we have the coaching. So any kind of turnover is going to dip down in scores in terms of shopping scores, but then they get back up again because we're faster. We know that they're not using the skills and we know which skills they're not using. If we weren't around, what would happen is the skills would go down and stay down. Now they go down, back up, down, back up. See what I'm saying? So that's what reinforcement gets you, bro.
Do you have case studies that show the big lift? What did teams do differently in the first, I don't know, 30 days? And how was those results?
Oh, yeah. Now, what's interesting is I've got clients that don't want me sharing this because they have competition, right? So I could talk in general terms and say, here's a client in a tertiary market that is making an extra $170,000 a year starting 30 days after our training. And we can track it. We can track what their conversion rate is. What does that mean? Let's just focus on reservations for a second. All comes into the front desk. What hotels don't know, Evo, is they're converting 30, maybe 40%, depending on their brand. So if you're a Hilton or Marriott, the public feels like you're consistently a better operator than, say, Holiday Inn or some of the other brands. So as a result, they're making the same mistakes at a Holiday Inn as they are a Marriott, but Marriott's conversion rate is 40%, whereas Holiday Inn is 30%. Make sense so far?
Hmm.
So we know that because we have them start tracking early on. What the conversion rate ought to be is 80%. How do we know? Because we've done this tens of thousands of times. We know what the conversion rate should be, and we know what the protocol should be. So we know it should be 80%. That 80% means about $120,000 more incremental revenue, and most of that is profit because you don't need more labor. So most of that top line revenue goes to the bottom line. As a result, small hotels making an extra $120,000 a year, medium-sized hotel $200,000, large hotels $500,000 just in that one function alone. Now we start training housekeepers, we start training maintenance people, we start training food and beverage people, service sales, everything else. It's just revenue just keeps going up. Sales offices, revenue just goes up. But I love starting at reservations. Why? Because as you and I are sitting here talking, pretend you're a general manager of a hotel. You and I are talking, calls are coming into your front desk right now and they're blowing the calls. 30% conversion rate when they ought to be 80. So I love training that first because it drives revenue starting tonight. How cool is that?
Correct. Totally agree.
Yeah. And fun.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit about fresh revenue as a business.
Yeah.
How do you do your B2B marketing?
You know what? There's going to be a lot of people shaking their head when I say this. I don't get hardly any business from marketing. Most of my business, 95% of it comes from networking. I've been doing this long enough now where a decision maker at one company got promoted to a different company and they're calling me and saying, "Hey, you did this for me over here. Can you do it for me over here?" I get a lot of those phone calls. I just heard from somebody the other day in 2016, believe it or not, she sent me a LinkedIn message saying, "Hey, when are you going to be in the so and so area?" And I said, "Why?" "Because I want you to meet with my people. We need you." And eventually it went away. Forgot about it. She just circled back like a month ago and said, "Hey, remember me from 2016? I'm ready to hire you now." So a lot of it is networking. A lot of it is do a lot of speaking. And if you've got an audience of 100, 1,000, 10,000, they rush the stage afterwards. They give you your business card. They want you to do this for their company. I love doing those. So if you want to call that marketing, that's the other part of the marketing. And there's a service I use that where I do public speaking, which gets me into other market segments I never would have access to. For example, I'm talking today to a feed manufacturer who wants me to train their salespeople. I never would have known these people unless I was tied to this speaking bureau. So that's how I get my business, but the vast majority is through networking.
Don, if you had a magic wand, could fix just one thing inside Fresh Revenues that is slowing your growth right now, what you fix and why?
Well, I'm sort of waving the magic wand now. So here's the deal. It is not inexpensive to have reinforcement. Let's just focus on shop calls for a second. So I have to have a live human being calling up a business and making that call onto number two, a platform that can record the call. So number three, a human being can go in, listen to the call and score it against the skills that we taught. Number four, I've got to have somebody take all those numbers and produce a month end report so that decision makers can see how they're doing in a portal. You can see where this is incredibly labor intensive and you can see where this becomes expensive. So I've got a dear friend of mine who's produced two apps for me who is looking at the AI function. And right now I'm comfortable knowing that AI can A, schedule the calls, B, score the call, C, produce a report. What AI is not ready to do, and someone's going to disagree with me because on Friday I'm going to listen to supposedly as live a human being as possible. I'll let you know if it happens. But I've yet to hear AI sound like a true human being that can have a conversation like you and I are having right now. That's going to happen. And when it does, that entire piece of the shopping portion becomes less expensive for me, which makes it less expensive for the client. Okay. So I'm waving my magic wand and that should happen. Okay. Other things, a magic wand, buddy, I'm in the business of teaching people, which means I want to be taught. I want to learn new things. Last week, I was in New Braunfels, Texas, speaking to a cool company. They're the largest parks and recreation company in America. I love gaining education on other market segments, other businesses where these skills work. So if I were to wave my magic wand, it would be to do business with industries and businesses I know nothing about. I'm having lunch today with somebody in the oil and gas industry. I know nothing about oil and gas other than I need it in my car, right? So hopefully we'll do business together and I can get educated on their world. That's my magic wand, buddy.
And this brings me a question. This different business, like you said, very interesting, passionate about to learn from other businesses. Do you get into that industry? Do you prepare and try to know about that industry or that company in order to give the skills?
Not only do I do research on that industry, let's say they've got a 3-day meeting. Like, for example, last week they had a 3-day meeting. I'm on day two. I showed up at the cocktail party 2 days prior to, so I could talk to their people and understand the culture. I sat through an entire day of their own meetings, and I'm blessed that these companies allow me to listen to their financials and listen to their challenges and their problems. So for a day and a half, I'm getting educated on that business and that industry and that culture. Now, that's not going to make me an expert, but that certainly helps me now when I get up in front of that room for 4.5 hours or even 8 hours. I'm a lot more educated. Plus, I can reinforce their messaging from the day before. You guys said you have challenges in this and this and this. Well, guess how that gets fixed today? So I can help them do that. Now that's expensive for me to do that. For me to do
Yes.
that, I don't charge a
Yeah.
client for 3 days. I charge them for 1 day. But I'm getting educated, so I'm getting paid. But I can't do that every week. But when I can do that, that's awesome.
Yeah. That brings me this question. You have a limited time. It's only you. There's no other done. So
Well,
how do you scale that?
I've got 10 others that work with me that
Okay.
handle the logistics and all that. But you're right, there's only one Don Farrell. And what's interesting is I could show up at a business and I can do exactly what you and I are doing right now. And when I get done, they're like, "You didn't say you were the owner, but you're the owner, aren't you?" And I would say, "How do you know?" Because nobody has the same passion you do. Nobody has passions like owners do. So it's clear to me that you're the owner. You're always looking for people that have the same passion as I do, but it's hard because they don't own the company, right? But if they can get close to my same passion and commitment, that's cool. Now, I will say this more so with my first company where we had 33 trainers. I wish I could tell you all of them were this kind of an individual, but I will tell you of the 33, I'm winging it here, but I'm going to say 20. They could be working somewhere else, Evo, making more money, but yet they elected to work for us. Why? I'd love to tell you it's because the culture and they loved us, but the number one reason they worked for us is they'd stand in these classes, they would sit in these classes, and they're educating these folks, and they feel good about that. They feel good that what they did today made a difference in somebody's life. Is that cool?
Yes.
Those are your best people, right? Those are your best trainers. And I'd love to tell you that every one of them are like that, but they're not. It's hard to find people like that. But when you do, you better hang on to them. And we were fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Um, That brings me to these three final questions. And in your own business, to you and to your people, what takes the most time each week to bring the fewest qualified sales conversations? I don't know if I make me clear.
The sales process is interesting.
Mhm.
Let's talk about speaking. So I'll get leads through a service that somebody says, I need someone to speak to 200 people for 2 hours about development, human development. And it's in Parsippany, New Jersey. And here are the dates. You're talking to the client and you ask questions like, and they're not used to these questions. I don't want to just speak to your group. You don't. What do you want to do? I want your people to hear the best messaging and get the best skills, bar none, for the 2 hours they're going to live with me. So, client, do me a favor. What's that? Define a home run for me. What would be a home run? And they don't know. They're like, oh man, let me think about it. I guess okay, we don't need guessing. I need your real pain points and what your people really, really need. So that's a longer sales process, obviously. I don't just want to show up and get a check, Evo. I want to show up and make a difference, right? And then get a check. So that sales process is more cumbersome and it's challenging for them. And I'm relying on the person I'm talking to be an expert. And in a lot of cases, they're not. The number of times I've showed up at an event thinking I was ready and the owner or the operator is like, "Oh, we don't need as much information on that. We need more information on this." Well, the person I'm dealing with didn't tell me that. So that's always a challenge. So that sales process is slower. This people that I'm going for, the people that I'm targeting, which is basically a cold call, that is incredibly challenging because there's so much noise out there. If they don't know who I am, I'm just another slug trying to get their attention, right? I've even gone to the point, Evo, where there's a company that's a half a mile from me that way. I'm in downtown Memphis, half a block from me. I'm sorry, half a block from me. Major corporation, multi-billion dollar corporation. They have 7,000 stores, physical bricks and mortar stores. I shopped them. I had 100 shop calls made to 100 different stores trying to buy their item that they're selling. Okay. They went from worse to worser. Terrible. I
Yeah.
sent an email to the CEO. I said, hey, guess what? You don't know me, but I called 100 of your stores. I have 100 calls on tape. You want to hear them? And literally in 10 minutes, he sends me back an answer, which is incredible that he even responded. He said, I want you to meet with my regional vice president of operations, and I want you to share those calls with him. I said, fantastic. So the CEO sends a note to the RVPO and me and says, can you connect with Don Farrell? So we set up a meeting for next week, Wednesday, let's say. I'm approaching the building. It's an all glass building. I see a guy standing in the lobby waiting. And I'm like, there's my guy. So I walk in the lobby and I go, so-and-so? He said, yeah, Don Farrell. I said, yeah. He said, oh, okay, Don. It was like a scene out of a movie, Evo. Ready? As we're walking to a boardroom in the lobby, he's looking at his watch saying, Don, how do you know the CEO? And I said, I don't. He said, you don't? I said, no. I sent him an email saying I had 100 shop calls. He literally went like this. Oh, so you don't know the CEO? No, I don't. Don, you said you needed an hour. Can we do this in 15 minutes? Because I've got other meetings to get to. And I knew I screwed up right there, Evo. You're not connected, Don Farrell. You don't know the CEO, so I'm not going to get in trouble by blowing you off. He could care less, right? We go into the meeting, and I said in my head, "You blew it already, Don Farrell." I wasn't going to lie to him and say, "Oh yeah, we eat eggs and drink beer every Thursday, me and the CEO." I wasn't going to do that, but I don't know how I could have done it. But I told him the truth, right? I don't know the CEO, so we're in this boardroom, and I play the first call, and I stop it at the end of the call. And he's amazed. He's like, what? She said, what? Can you play another one? Sure. Can you play another one? Sure. We're in that room for 2.5 hours. Now, he's challenging me on how much money will this make me? How do you get people to follow through? What if they quit? How do you get the new ones up? He was asking me great questions. Now, he says, hang on, you got time? I said, sure. He calls the vice president of training into this room. In walks this guy with eyes as big as like a deer in headlights, because he doesn't know what he's walking into, right? These are big companies, political animals, these companies, right?
Yes.
So he walks in, he goes, hi, what's going on? VP of operations says, sit down, sit down, sit down. And the guy's at the head of the table. The VPO is here. I'm here. So the three of us are here, right? And the board table. And the VPO sets it up. And he said, I want you to meet Don Farrell. Here's what he did. He's playing these calls for me. Don, play a call for this VP of training. Sure. I play the call. I stop the call in the middle and I say, VP of training, what do you want your person to say right now? He looks at me and he says, exact words. He says, I have no earthly idea. And what goes through my head is this guy just got fired and doesn't know it.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty that I just got a guy fired, right? So I try to save him. I'm like, okay, let me be honest with you. I don't know how to spell. They're in the automotive industry. I don't know how to spell automotive, but I know how to spell hospitality. And if this were a hospitality kind of a call, here's what you would do in your business. Does that make sense? And he says, yeah, I think it does. So I finished playing the calls. We have a conversation. Let's follow up. Here's what happened. The entire training department got fired. Not just him. The entire training department got fired. It's 5 months later. I'm calling the new VP of training. He's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. You're like the Grim Reaper. When you show up, people get fired. Thank you, but no thank you. And I got nowhere. Talk about a sales process. Buddy, this goes back 12 years ago. This story is 12 years old. And I have attempted to get in front of the right people this entire time. Why? Because it's half a block from my company, half a block from here. Why wouldn't I? Right? I'm jumping on 2 airplanes to go save clients. Meanwhile, half a block from me, this guy needs saving, and they just don't know it. So it's not an easy sales process. And sometimes they just call me up and we sign a deal, but it's not usually like that. It's a long, arduous process. I know that was a long answer. I apologize for the long answer.
No, it's great. And thinking, where do you want to be your business here in the next 12 months?
I love to grow. I think growing is fun. I don't know what that growth looks like. It could be today at lunch. It could be the CEO says to me, we've got 500 people. I need you to come in and train them on this, and this. And it could be a $2 million deal. It could be nothing. So I just want to grow. I don't have a magic number that says I want this much money or this many locations. I just want to keep growing as it makes sense. The beautiful thing for me is almost every single training class we do, somebody out of that class approaches us and says, I want to do what you're doing. Can I work for you? And I have to be very careful because I can't steal my clients' people. But there's that much interest in individuals wanting to work with us. There's no shortage of me finding talent. So if I picked up a client that said, I've got a global corporation and you've got to be in 30 countries in the next 6 months, I could do that. My first company, I would literally get phone calls. I have 1,000 locations. I need you to be at 1,000 locations on site for an entire day, training management in the next 45 days. Can you do it? And we were the only company on the planet that could do that. Okay. I can't do that today, but if somebody said, Give me 30 days to staff up, and then 45 days later, I could do that. So I'll be as big as it makes sense to be. But growing's fun, brother. I want to grow.
And what did you learn from it?
First thing that pops into my head is when we first started hiring trainers, the way I phrased it was they need to have two skills. They need to have fluff. What does that mean? If you're going to train for 8 hours, you better be entertaining. You better be humorous. You better be engaging because this can't be 8 hours of, oh my gosh, I wish he'd be done already. It's got to be engaging. 8 hours. That's not easy to do, brother. Okay. So I call it fluff. And then you have to have the stuff. You have to have the depth and breadth to be able to stand up in front of an audience because there's at least one or two people going, geez, I've already had this kind of training before. Why would I want to listen to you? So you better have the experience on how to have that empathy and the expertise to convince people that you're an expert. So fluff and stuff. I thought that's all you needed. And then we had trainers failing, even though they had fluff and stuff. The third element was they better be organized. It's not an easy world. Working for me is not easy. So here's the deal. You train for 8 hours today. You jump in your car. You have to train tomorrow. And the client's an hour and a half away. So you're driving 90 minutes to the next location. In that 90 minutes, you're calling next week's training events. Hey, Charlie, are you ready for me? We're going to make sure we have everybody there. You need what? Okay, I'll get that to you. They're driving. Okay. Gotta be careful they don't kill themselves. But they're having these conversations with next week's clients. They get to their next location an hour and a half after they got done with the first one. And now they have to set up a meeting room. Now they're having a late dinner. Now they're getting up early to have breakfast, to get the meeting room ready and get psyched to do it. Now they have another 8 hours and they're jumping in their car again to go to the next location. That's a tough life, dude. If you don't, you better be physically and mentally prepared to be able to do that. And you're doing this for 3 out of 4 weeks a month. You're gone Monday, home Friday, gone Monday, home Friday, sometimes gone Monday, home Thursday. And then a week a month, you're in your office. But let me tell you, the best ones, what fuels them is being able to help people progress their skills, to help themselves in their own lives. That's what motivates them. What I told you earlier about those 20 trainers out of 33, they do it for personal reasons, not just professional. I feel like I make a contribution to society. And that's what motivates, so it fuels them. That's what fuels them. So the mistake we made was you better be organized because if you're not making those calls for next week. And we found that trainers that worked for us for 3-4 years, they weren't enough organized. So they were making mistakes and having problems and people weren't showing up at the event. We had to let them go because they were not organized people. So they need 3 skill sets, not just 2. And you learn that the hard way.
And now this brings me to the final question.
Good.
What is your mindset? You talk about here and there of your mindset, but if you can resume, can you put it on one sentence? What is your mindset?
My mindset is I will never retire. I'm just going to fall down dead because I love, love, love what I do. My mindset is to always, always, always be learning, growing, and developing. My mindset is it's about the people. You and I are going to get to the point where we're sitting on the porch of our house and we're sitting there with our grandkids and we're not going to talk about EBITDA or gross operating profit percentages or how much money I made. We're going to talk about the people that influenced us and we had the fortunate circumstance to influence others. That's what we're going to talk about, our life experiences. So my mindset is that. My mindset is I want to do business with people I like. I can make money a lot of different ways, but I want to work with people I like and people that want to be elite and they don't just talk about it. And those people are rare. That's who I want to work with. I want to work with passionate people.
Yeah,
That's my mindset.
that's great. Great answer.
It wasn't
Well,
one sentence. Sorry.
no, but it's good enough. Well done. Thank you very much for your answers. Anything else that you want to?
Yeah, I want to thank you for doing this. I mean, you're doing this with all kinds of walks and flavors of individuals, sharing hopefully people's pearls of wisdom, the mistakes they've made, the things they want to do, and hopefully this helps your audience. So I applaud you for doing this, brother. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you very much. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.